So now let's take a look at the Bitcoin miners here. These are a little bit more tricky because these are just getting weaker and weaker and weaker. But the good news is, even though HIVE is still trending lower, breaking below some levels, one level at a time, it lost that 236, which was a very important level. You can see that right there. And once it lost that, it just went straight down. But we can see that the high time frame on the monthly chart, it's still not a higher low, or still not a lower low from here, and that's in the 130s, right? Maybe even 136, and that 136 is that zero level down there. So that could be the target for maybe a double bottom. But I'm not giving up on it because when you look at this chart, what we see, what we take away from this is it was what was that? A 10,000% increase, right? A 10,000% increase. And what happened after that? It was a 95% drop, right? And then it recovered again. So 10,000% dropped 95%, and now here we are, right? So what is really happening, I think, with a lot of the miners is they had a huge monstrosity of an explosion in 2021, right? In 2020, 2021, just a huge explosion. So it's just taking a lot more time to cool off. And if this does do kind of a double bottom thing here, then the potential to continue its journey higher does exist. So I can't count them out just yet because the high time frame market structure is still okay. And now let's look at CLSK on the monthly candles here. And also another one that had a big explosion, right? We can just see from here, huge 4,300% gain. And then we had a 95% drop, right? So it's kind of like an altcoin, really, these miners. And then it exploded again. So now it's looking at finding its higher low. So can it go lower? And the answer is always yes with these miners, simply because they love to shake people out. And they love to explode when nobody cares about them anymore. Just like down here, nobody cared about them back in March of 2020 anymore. And that was the catalyst to explode higher. But now we can see that price got rejected by this monthly Ichimoku cloud for a long time. And so this might need to go a little bit lower, right? It might need to go back down to this 50% level, the 643. And we can take a look at that zone where right here, it was a breakout zone, right? A breakout to the highs in 2021. And then right here, it was a resistance, right? In August of 2022 and in July of 2023, it was another resistance. And then it's another breakout zone. So technically speaking, if it did go back down to that 50% level on the monthly time frame, all it would be doing is going to back test that previous resistance zone, which was a previous support, which means it is flipping it back to a support. So again, even though people are very, very bearish on these miners, I still think that the market structure here is telling us something, that things are not really dead, that they're just sleeping for a long time because of that massive explosion from 2020. And now we're going to look at RIOT. So RIOT, I have that black line there, but what I'm really looking at for this one, yeah, I am looking at that 747 zone, maybe even a little bit lower, maybe 730 or something, right? And the reason why I'm looking at that is because it was also a previous resistance zone in the past, and then a breakout zone, right? It broke out above the 100 at that point, and now it's looking like a possible backtest zone. So am I scared of this chart? No. Could it go lower? The answer is always yes with these miners, right? It always can go lower. But you know what? It's lower even if it did go back down to that 236 to 415 down here, where it was a previous resistance, breakout, and a back test of that, right? It could back test it again. And if it did do that, would people be scared? And I think the answer is, well, most people are already giving up. So I think at that point, there would be no more retail interest in that point if it did go lower. But that would be a perfect setup for things to explode. When things are not interesting at all, when retail gives up 100%, then it's time to go higher. So I do like it in this zone, but I think it still has possible to go a little bit lower, possibly to establish a better foundation down below. But I think it's still a perfect setup for price to go continue higher, right? And even break above this cloud up here in the 40s, right? I think it still has that potential. And Mara is next. This one has been maintaining the 100-month moving average for a while, and right now it's below it. But is it dead completely? Well, there's 13 days left, and it still can close back above that 1297. It is kind of the same level that it was last month. It's in basically the same zone month over month. And when we look at this chart from the bottom, it is a huge breakout, huge correction, and now it's just basically sideways for a long time, trying to trend on top of this 100 here for a setup that looks still very possible to go higher and even break above this monthly cloud in the future in the 40s, right? It still has that potential because market structure wise is telling me that, right? And even if it did decide to lose this 100-month moving average, then maybe if crypto does want to fall a little bit more, it could go back down to this 908. And that 908 would be a really solid support because it was a previous breakout zone, backtest zone, and it would be another backtest. So from the bottom here, yeah, it's still higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, and this is still a higher low from here. So we cannot count any of these miners out just yet, simply for the fact that all they are doing is nothing for a while, right? And literally, because of this volatility that you saw before in 2020, they are really doing nothing right now, right? This whole range right now from the 12s to the 20s, right, is literally the same kind of range because this huge explosion was massive. So in comparison, it's just sideways. It's just sideways completely. And CIFR, we're going to take a look at that on the monthly chart. And CIFR is really telling a story that it's really trying to hold this 45-degree angle. And that 45-degree angle is maybe around like 310 or so, right? 315 maybe. And it's the first touch, right? It's the first touch. So it's easy to wick below it and then close the month back above it. And you know what? When you look at this monthly chart, this is actually one of the more beautiful ones because you can see all these wicks here that it's really is just a series of higher lows. Even this body of this candle is still above this wick here, and that wick is 266. So it still has a little bit more room to go. Even if it wanted to, we can go back to the 242 right here, the 50% level, and that would still be possible, right? This fib right here, which would still be a higher low with all of here. So with that said, you cannot count this one out at all, right? It just got rejected up here in the golden pocket zone, and now it came back down to retest some support below. But this still looks like it has very, very good potential to break out as soon as nobody cares about it at all. And IREN here. So IREN, I saw a post, I think on X today, that's saying that IREN's never going to go back to like $14 or something. So let's check it out, right? We see that it was a massive breakout, and it's kind of like CIFR, where it's higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. Yeah, so this monthly resistance was massive, the 1388. Every time it wicked above it, it got rejected. And so now price is just going back down. And where is it going to go? Well, it could come back down even to the ARC here, or even the 50%, maybe even the 530s, right? But does that change the market structure overall of this thing? And the answer is no, right? This is just one V-shaped bottom, or even like maybe like a aggressive cup and maybe the handle formation right here, right? So this has potential to recover, even if it does start to go lower, because the market structure is telling me that. So I cannot be too bearish on IREN either, because it still looks like it's set up to go higher once everybody stops caring about it completely. And Bitfarms, it finally went lower, right? It finally went back to a lower level, but this lower level is not hit yet. The 618 down there is the 0.9198. That would be the target if it really wanted to go lower. And the reason why is you can see it clearly. It was a breakout zone, then a backtest of that fib right here. So backtesting that again would be a normal procedure, right? And I say normal in the context that these are volatile, and retesting these volatile ranges, these huge percentages, is normal for the miners. So people love the upside potential, but they cannot handle the downside potential. But I think if it does go below $1, closer to 91, 92 cents, I think that is going to be the point where I do buy a lot more Bitfarms, because I think this really has the potential to pull off one of these 100% candles, right? Sooner or later, just a 100% monthly candle, boom, going straight up. And it's the pattern has been there. Every time people give up on it, it shoots up hundreds of percent. It happened in 2020. It happened in 2023. It even happened down here when people were kind of giving up on it too. In October of 2023, it was a huge 30%, then followed by a 100% candle. So you betcha, if it goes below $1, I will be buying a lot more, because I can see that happening for Bitfarms. And now we're going to do Bit Digital BTBT, and this is still holding market symmetry perfectly, right? Even the GAN level, it's holding perfectly, so it's one of the better ones. And I think it actually is worth taking a shot at right here. Maybe a little bit lower at that angle too, around the 170s could be better, but I think it's all really the same zone. So BTBT, it really has potential to maintain that support right now, right now, and right around 216 there. And it's equal lows, right? You can look here. It's not making lower lows. It's just a huge breakout, huge correction, sideways for a long time, waiting for its next move higher. And just look at the next move higher here. It could even go to the bottom of the cloud, which would be like in the $6 or $7 range. That would be massive, right? From a $2 stock to a $7 stock in a short amount of time. It's possible, right? It's definitely possible, because we've seen it before after everybody gives up on it. And WULF is next. And WULF, I'm going to be looking at the monthly chart at 2. And WULF is almost back down to its 382. So I think the monthly chart was a perfect example of what happened. There was too much traffic up here. And by traffic, I mean all this resistance. You had the 200 week, the 200 month, 100 month, 50 month moving average. You had the arc, you had this 618 fib there at 316. You had the conversion, the baseline, you had all of that resistance. It was just too much traffic. It could not break above, so when it can't break above, it goes back down and retests support below. And that's almost there. So I think WULF is actually at a point now where it's really, really nice. It's a previous resistance, breakout. It's a back test. This is really an opportunity for most people, I think, because it can have a huge monthly candle or multiple huge monthly candles in the months to come, right? And even if it did want to go touch this 45-degree angle one more time like it did down here, that would even be a better opportunity. So yes, these have gone lower than everybody has expected, even me. But we have to understand that these are the most high beta stocks ever, really. They're huge. So these kind of percentage drops, when you look at the monthly chart, they really mean nothing in comparison to the huge up moves that it's had before, right? They look like nothing. So it's just about a perspective. And while everybody's giving up on these, they still have potential to be in a bottoming process, getting ready to explode higher. And next is HUT. And HUT is looking really nice as well. So I want to show you that this 45-degree angle has been a magnet for price over and over and over and over again. And with that said, I can see price just maintaining around this zone. It's right back at the GAN level, right around 11. A little bit lower would be 960s. And in fact, I do like this chart a lot. So if it does come back down a little bit more, I think I'll probably buy it for the first time. I actually don't have a position in it right now, but it is possible to do that, right? So we will just pay attention to this zone and the 1108 and the 920s right here. We can see that this can be a great opportunity for the future because the trend can be your friend, right? It can be your friend where this angle keeps on holding as support. So if it does go back down there, guess what? The opportunity could be staring at us right in front of our faces for the next move higher. And now we got CORZ here. So CORZ is one of these that had a massive breakout already, and now it's doing a big correction. And how far down can it go? And it already went down to the 50% level, so it's probably the halfway point is acceptable, right? It's acceptable from the bottom to the top here. It's an acceptable place to go back to at the halfway point. So with that said, I think that is going to be like a good support zone. I think it can maintain for the potential to continue to build a base in that zone and go higher. And that zone is a breakout zone and a backtest zone as well. So I think the 690s here, if it were to go back down there again, I think could be the opportunity. And BTDR, this one actually is right inside the golden pocket still, right here. It's really trying to maintain this 1031, and that is the 786, and then we have the 702 right below it at 896 as well. But this one is still okay too. It was just a big breakout, a rejection up here at the 2325, and then price came screaming back down to find its higher low. And sure enough, these are all higher lows from here, 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 here. So in this zone, I really think it has potential to hold for a potential continuation higher. And next we have SMLR, and this is on the monthly chart going back below the green GAN level. But it does have potential to close back above it by the end of the month, and it is going below this 100 month and the 382 up here, the 4234. But when we look at this on a higher time frame, all we see was a massive correction and basically going sideways, right? This is essentially sideways from May 2022. It's just sideways, sideways, sideways. Sure, it had a huge 94% candle here, but it really, all it did is close that gap, right? There was a big gap up here in February of 2022, but it just closed that gap. And what did it do? It did it 2 months in a row, and then it just came back down. So that was kind of an obvious rejection because it was also the monthly cloud. It was also the 618, the 6919. And because of that, it was obvious that it probably wanted to go retest levels. How low is it going to go? I think the potential to go down to this 3125 is still there. The 236, or even back testing this arc is still there too, around 2755.